Have you ever felt frustrated because despite hours of studying, your English still isn't flowing naturally? You've memorized vocabulary lists, crammed grammar rules, watched videos, and maybe even repeated exercises for months. Yet when it's time to speak, something doesn't click. Chances are you've been unknowingly following myths that slow your progress. These are beliefs so common that most learners take them as facts. But the reality? Well, many of these myths waste time, create frustration, and even block fluency. So in today's episode, we're going to bust the top 5 English learning myths that hold learners back. I'll explain why they are misleading, what the truth is, and how to approach English in a way that actually works. By the end, you'll have practical strategies to replace these myths with habits that bring real results. So grab a notebook, put on your headphones, and let's get started. It's time to clear the clutter from your mind and focus on what really works. The first myth. This is one of the most pervasive myths. Many learners think if I study longer, I'll improve faster. So they sit for hours reading textbooks, memorizing lists, or watching videos. Well, here's the truth. Quality always beats quantity. Studying for 5 focused, intentional minutes is far more effective than 2 hours of distracted or unfocused study. Here's why long hours can backfire. Number 1, mental fatigue. Your brain can only absorb so much at once. After 45 to 60 minutes, your retention drops sharply. 2, burnout. Long, irregular study sessions often lead to giving up entirely. And 3, inefficient practice. Hours of passive reading or watching without speaking or using the language actively, is wasted energy. In fact, a student of mine, a software engineer in the Netherlands, studied English for 2 hours daily for 7 years. He knew the grammar, vocabulary, and even idioms, yet he struggled to speak naturally in meetings. After switching to a structured 20-minute daily method, he saw faster progress in confidence, fluency, and comprehension. So my point is that study smarter, not longer. Focus on meaningful, deliberate practice, like listening, speaking, reading, and writing. So if you haven't watched my video on studying smarter and not longer, please do so, as the link appears on the top right corner of your screen now. Myth number 2. You must speak perfectly or you'll never improve. Well, many learners fear making mistakes. They think if I speak wrong, people will laugh, or I'll never sound fluent. Well, this myth creates hesitation and overthinking, which kills fluency. Here's why perfectionism is harmful. Well, overthinking slows your speech. Fear of mistakes prevents you from practicing. And grammar-focused perfection often disrupts natural conversation flow. In fact, next time you speak English, allow yourself to make one mistake intentionally and observe that the conversation still flows. People understand you, and you actually learn faster from the mistakes. One student of mine, a university student in Malaysia, refused to speak during classes because she feared errors. After practicing fluency over perfection exercises, she became one of the most confident speakers. Mistakes didn't ruin her. They taught her patterns, phrasing, and pronunciation. So focus on communication, not perfection, because fluency grows through trial, error, and consistent speaking. Myth number 3. You must have a native accent to be fluent. Well, this is a myth that scares so many learners. You might have heard, if you don't sound like a native speaker, people won't understand you. Well, the truth is, communication is more important than accent. Native speakers adapt to different kinds of accents every single day. Fluency is clarity, confidence and appropriate expression, not imitation of a specific accent. So here's why chasing a native accent can really backfire. 1. Unrealistic expectations create frustration. 2. Focus on pronunciation perfection can slow fluency. And 3. English is global. Millions speak it with different accents and are perfectly understood. Well, let me tell you something. A student of mine from Iran practiced a standard American accent for 2 years, but he constantly corrected himself mid-sentence. After shifting focus to intelligibility over accent, he became fluent in real conversations. His accent didn't change completely, but people understood him perfectly. And his confidence, well, it skyrocketed. What I'm saying is that prioritize clarity and expression, not sounding like a native speaker. Accents are natural, and fluency is universal. Myth number 4, vocabulary is king. Well, many learners believe the more words I know, the better I'll speak. While vocabulary matters, knowing 10,000 words does not automatically make you fluent. Here's why vocabulary alone is not enough. Number 1, knowing words doesn't mean you can use them naturally in sentences. 2, without phrases or sentence patterns, speech will be slow and awkward. And 3, overloading on words without practice creates passive knowledge, not active ability. So, instead of memorizing isolated words, focus on phrases and chunks, such as, at the end of the day, I see what you mean, or, by the way, these are some of them you can use, actually. One of my students, in fact, spent months memorizing lists of 500 words, but froze in conversations. After switching to daily phrases, the daily phrases practice, his speaking fluency and confidence increased dramatically within weeks. What I'm saying is that phrases are more valuable than single isolated words. Learn language as building blocks, not isolated vocabulary. Myth number 5, you must travel or live abroad to be fluent. Here's a myth many learners envy. I have to move to an English-speaking country to really learn. While immersion helps, it's not required to become fluent. Here's why this mindset, let's say, is misleading. You can practice English effectively anywhere using speaking partners, online resources, podcasts, or structured routines. Living abroad without active practice doesn't guarantee fluency. Passive exposure is not enough. Many learners in non-English countries reach high fluency without leaving home. Well, a student of mine in Malaysia reached C1 level English without traveling abroad. So he used podcasts, speaking clubs, shadowing, and daily exercises. Now he says, I don't live in an English-speaking country, but I speak like I do. My point is that consistent, deliberate practice trumps location. You don't need to move to achieve fluency. Practice and smart strategies matter much more. Now that we have busted the top 5 myths, what can you do differently every day to accelerate your English learning? Step 1, 20-minute daily routine. 5 minutes listening to native phrases, podcasts, videos, YouTube clips. 5 minutes speaking phrases aloud. 5 minutes reading phrases in context. And 5 minutes writing reflections using phrases. Step 2, focus on communication, not perfection. Speak freely. Make mistakes and prioritize clarity. Don't pause endlessly to choose the perfect grammar. Step 3, Practice in chunks, not words. Learn ready-to-use expressions instead of memorizing lists. For example, instead of house, kitchen, and cook, learn I'm cooking in the kitchen. Step 4. Track your progress. Record yourself weekly. Compare progress in fluency, speed, and confidence. In fact, a student of mine who followed this routine replaced 3 hours of passive study with 20 minutes daily, yet saw more improvement in 2 months than years of traditional study. English learning myths are like invisible barriers. They make you feel stuck, slow your progress, and create unnecessary stress. The solution is not working harder, it's working smarter. So ask yourself, am I focusing on meaningful practice or just busy work? Do I fear mistakes more than I desire fluency? Am I chasing perfection, accent, or hours instead of communication? Please answer these questions honestly, then replace old habits with practices that actually produce results. I once worked with a student who believed all the 5 myths that I just talked about. After 4 weeks of myth-busting exercises, phrases, shadowing, and deliberate speaking, his confidence soared. He said, I feel like I finally understand what learning English is really about. I don't need hours, perfection, or a native accent to communicate naturally. This is exactly what every learner deserves: freedom, fluency, and confidence. To put today's episode into action, day 1 to 2, reduce study hours and focus on quality 20-minute sessions. Day 3 to 4, speak freely without overthinking mistakes. I've done a video on overthinking in English, so if you haven't watched it, please tap the link as it appears on the top right corner of your screen. Day 5 to 6, practice phrases instead of memorizing individual words. And on day 7, communicate confidently anywhere, at home, online, or in conversation. By the end of the week, you'll feel lighter, brighter, more confident, and more fluent. More importantly, you'll stop wasting time on old, unhelpful beliefs. So, to wrap up, studying long hours isn't always effective. Mistakes are essential for fluency. They are a natural part of the learning process. Perfect accent is not required. Vocabulary alone doesn't equal fluency. Living abroad isn't necessary to speak English confidently. And focus on what really works: phrases, deliberate practice, active speaking, and smart routines. The rest are myths designed to slow you down. Share this episode with anyone stuck in ineffective habits. Show them that fluency is about smart choices, consistency, and communication, not fear, perfection, or myths. Until next time, keep learning, keep speaking, and remember, English fluency is not a dream, it's a strategy. Until next time, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.